Welcome to ABC Discourse. In this program, we used to discuss a various range of issues in security, geopolitics, and diplomacy. Today, in this discourse, we have invited His Excellency Syed Haider Shah, the Ambassador of the Pakistan into Nepal. Mr. Shah has been in Kathmandu from November 2020, and we have a good relation with Pakistan from around 6 decades. Though people-to-people relation with Pakistan is from history, it is around thousands of years of history, but the diplomatic relation with Pakistan has been started in 1960, and the bilateral relations is based between the two countries upon the principles of goodwill, mutual cooperation, and support. Today we will discuss about the bilateral relation with Pakistan and Nepal. Let us welcome His Excellency Syed Haider Shah.
Thank you.
Your Excellency, as I have already told you that you have been in Nepal for around 8 months. Within this period, how do you feel about Nepal? What is your impression about Nepal and its people?
Well, I have very positive impressions in the relatively short time that I've been here, and unfortunately because of COVID restrictions there hasn't been that much movement possible. But whatever I have seen, it has struck me as amazing. It's I would say pristine natural beauty in abundance in Nepal, and that is one of the reasons why it continues to be a magnet for tourism and for tourists around the world. Apart from the highest peaks that you have. So I think, and that is added, the added beauty of it is the people here. I think very friendly and very hospitable, and I think the welcoming smile on the faces of the people. Even when you are trekking in the mountains, in the hills, that is a very kind of a positive vibes generated by the people when they see a tourist or a foreigner. That's the natural reaction is very one of positive hospitality. I think that those are kind of my initial I would say impressions of Nepal, of its beauty and the friendliness of the people of this country.
Your Excellency, it is around 62 years of bilateral relation between Nepal and Pakistan, and it, in the opinion of most of the critics, it is a good relation, exemplary relation between the two countries. But within these 6 decades, in your opinion, what areas should be utilized for further strengthening for bilateral relations?
Yeah, I think the formal history of diplomatic relations is 61 years, but I think the bonds between the two countries are much longer, and I think the Buddhist links, for instance, the Lord Buddha happened to traverse the territory in Pakistan also during his lifetime, and the sages and our ancestors moved across those mountains, those difficult hilly terrains, and there are historical evidences of those movements across that. So the linkages between the two countries, the two civilizations are much older. In terms of formal relationship, I would say partially I would agree in the sense that we could have done more. I mean the relationship could have been more strengthened, but that is a challenge. That is a challenge for us to take it forward, to further deepen the bonds between the two countries, and I think we are moving in that direction. Few areas where we can make I think a priority. I think I think in terms of connectivity, that is a major obstacle, that we are not directly linked, the two countries, and the bilateral trade, for instance, is impacted by that factor. So we have to see how we can get around those challenges, how we can bring the synergy between the trading communities in the two countries to forge cooperative relationships in that, in a kind of a mutually win-win equation. And I think it is possible. I think there is interest. I have met businessmen here, entrepreneurs here. There is interest, and there is interest also in Pakistan in that. The issue is how to take it forward. Currently, because of the COVID, I think there is a challenge in the sense that normal activities have been impeded, and it is not possible to kind of do business as usual. But within the constraints of whatever pandemic, the restrictions, they are there. I think we are hopeful that we can continue to explore ways of strengthening that. And another area would be people-to-people contact. That's a promising area. I think there is a lot of goodwill in Nepal and in Pakistan towards each other, and I think that is a positive factor that we need to harness. A lot of many youngsters from Nepal have gone to Pakistan to study, and they, as doctors, as engineers in other fields, and they are now contributing to Nepal's economy, to Nepal's society. And we hope that those relationships, those people-to-people contacts would be further strengthened.
As you mentioned, there is lacking in connectivity and bilateral trade. In this response, the Nepal and Pakistan Joint Economic Commission, which is founded in 1983, I think, though we have a few number of tourists from Pakistan, in 19 it is around only 5,000 tourists arrived, visited Nepal. How we can fix it? How we can further boost the bilateral trade, joint ventures, and connectivity issues?
Yeah, I think in terms of bilateral trade, I think the first thing is that it has to be driven by the business community, the traders, the exporters, the importers on both sides, the businessmen. We have to, and there is interest. We can play at the governmental level a facilitative role. The matchmaking, bringing them together, sharing information where they need that, or other kind of facilitation that they require. And we hope that it would make progress, and that we would be able to bring the business community together. But as I mentioned, the connectivity issue is an important factor, because in business, your profit margin, I mean, and the time it takes for the products to move around, the cost, these are important considerations for them. So we have to, we cannot brush them aside. We have to take into account those factors, and we hope that there could be possibilities for enhanced trade in the future by bringing together the businessmen to explore what is possible and how to overcome the obstacles of connectivity. It's not the Pakistan and Nepal which are in this kind of bind where we have a connectivity issue. Other countries have also managed to overcome those kind of obstacles, and we hope that we can, because there is a interest. That is the most important thing. The interest is there, so we have to capitalize on that and see how we can do that. So we have mechanisms also in place, as you pointed out. There are relationships between the chambers and the two countries, and they have been collaborating in the past. We hope that we inject a certain amount of, or certain sense of urgency in those relationships, so that they more actively pursue those interests. But at the end of the day, in terms of bilateral trade, it has to serve, it has to be a win-win equation. That is when the businessman would be interested in doing that, and our effort is to make sure that it remains a mutually beneficial relationship. The challenges are there. In terms of tourism, tourists from Pakistan, we hope that we also are hoping that it can be expanded in future. Again, air connectivity is an issue. And that is, we hope that we can have direct flight between the two countries. That could be a big boost to people-to-people contacts, and the tourism sector. The tourists from the two countries, they can go and visit each other. Right now, the air, as you know, because the restrictions of the COVID-19 pandemic, air traffic is far from in an ideal position, but we hope that we can have some kind of air connectivity restored between the two countries. Those are the areas. I think these are the means through which there can be a lot of cascading impacts on the whole gamut of relationship. Once you have connectivity in place, once you have the ease of travel, that could also kind of facilitate tourism, trade, other contexts.
In your opinion, in your evaluation, what is the role of the Nepalese side to boost up the bilateral trade and connectivity?
I think it's a two-way street. I think it's an equal responsibility both on Pakistan on side and the Nepalese side, and I think the important thing is that the interest is there. The issue is how to find a viable mechanism to translate that positive interest into kind of concrete ties in terms of trade, in terms of other spheres. So I think from their side, the Nepalese, if they could come up with more initiatives in terms of where their interests lie, I think a more proactive approach from the businessmen from this side and from that side, we can play a facilitative role in that, and it would help us also help them in terms of bringing the interested parties together and forging those kind of bilateral trade and overcoming the connectivity issues. So I think it is not one side or the other side. I think the mutual interest has to propel it, and from both sides they have to demonstrate that kind of interest which is there, and they have to proactively seize this, proactively pursue it, and we are there to help them.
The world is now struggling with the COVID-19, and Nepal and Pakistan also is affected by COVID. But Pakistan near about won the battle without strict restrictions like lockdown, etc. And presently Pakistan has made Pakvax its own vaccine. What is your experience? How countries like Nepal can learn from Pakistani experience?
I think the battle against this virus is not over yet. It is still there, and as yesterday or the day before, the WHO chief also warned about the lethality of the new variants of virus and how it is impacting the world. I think we are not out of the woods yet, and we have to remain on the guard. Fortunately, I think in Pakistan we have been spared the very deadly ravages of the virus, as we have witnessed in some of the other countries. Although I think still many people have been impacted by it in one way or another. I think one of the things in Pakistan, what was important for us at the leadership level was to make sure that while we are trying to manage the virus, we do not create problems which would hurt people. So that, for instance, one of the foremost concerns at the leadership level in Pakistan was, in terms of when it was debated to go for a lockdown, as it was kind of many countries kind of resorting to. The concern was the socio-economically hardest hit sections of the community. How are they going to survive? They may be able to be isolated and immune from the virus for the time being, but what about the socio-economic impact and the poverty, the hunger, I mean the starvation, those who cannot, the daily wages. So I think we had to strike this balance between the two views of a strict lockdown or a kind of a more targeted approach, imposing the restrictions only where there was a surge, and I think it has by and large helped. It has we have managed to curb the upsurge of virus in areas where there was a threat, where it was increasing exponentially, where there was evidence that there were cases which were kind of multiplying, and as a result the life in other areas was not impacted. So you could have a sense of normalcy while you are also imposing restrictions in areas of concern. I think that has allowed us to kind of allow socio-economic activities and to shield the most disadvantaged sections of the community from the harmful impact of a comprehensive lockdown, which impacts those people. I think there is a lesson in it that we have to tailor our approaches in a manner that we do not do unintended harm to the people. It's still, I think, at the same time, we at the national level, the National Command and Control Center has been set up to coordinate activities or in terms of managing the pandemic at the national level. We have employed technology, hotlines have been established, WhatsApp, through communication through WhatsApp, letting people know when they are due for vaccination, informing them, tracing and isolating infected people, and providing them assistance and other initiatives. All these have been done to provide information about the hospitals where they can go and get treated, where they can be tested. All that can be. So I think we have tried to use technology which is available and accessible to the people and which is used by them, so the modern technology, modern social media platforms, and a kind of a humane approach while fashioning restrictions or to other restrictive measures, considering the impact of on the poorest of the society. I think that is something which is, I think it is it can be a good advice, I think, or some other, for other countries also to see and to follow, so that they can manage the virus while minimizing the impact on the people.
One question is about the regional issue, that Nepal and Pakistan, both countries are the members of the SAARC, but from a few years the SAARC, the existence of SAARC is very poor and inert. What is the main hurdle of active SAARC, and what Nepal and Pakistan, countries like Nepal and Pakistan, can do for the active SAARC?
SAARC, when it was conceived in the mid-80s, it was the leaders got together, and I think the idea was to allow the people of this region to come together, to have a platform for their common prosperity, for socio-economic development, for cultural linkages, and for other collaborative ventures through the aegis of this platform. It is not right to say that this organization didn't do anything. I think it has proliferated, it has multiplied, and it has grown over the years. And it is contributing significantly in many areas. It has provided that kind of platform for the countries in this region. Why it is inert, I think it is an open secret. Why it in recent years, why it has not been moving forward. I would only say that it remains one of the most promising platforms for regional cooperation in this region, and it can provide the inputs, the services, and the framework for pursuing common prosperity like no other organization can. I think it remains crucial for socio-economic uplift and development in this region, and I hope that the members of the organization would realize that and would continue their efforts to bring this organization back on track. We in this context are very appreciative of the principled position taken by Nepal for activation of this organization and to let this organization play its intended role. We appreciate that, and we hope that this view would prevail, and that in the near future we would be able to see this organization assume the role once again that it is intended to play.
Countries like Nepal and Pakistan have a tough role to balance big powers. For Nepal, there is two superpowers, economic superpowers, India and China. We have to balance always. And Pakistan is also balancing some of the superpowers in many more regional and international issues. What is your response that in balancing these superpowers?
Well, one thing is that you cannot choose your neighbors. I mean, in the international system, you live with that, and you make the best of the given situation. In the international system, I think the disparities in the size and influence and power and relative economic position of the country. Well, one thing is that you cannot choose your neighbors. I mean, in international system, you live with that, and you make the best of the given situation. In the international system, I think the disparities in the size and influence and power and relative economic position of the countries is also a kind of is a reality that we cannot wish away. It is there. What the beauty, I would say, of this international system in the post-World War II system is that it provides multilateral diplomacy or a number of platforms for countries to come together and to forge alliances on different issues. They can be regional organizations which are also encouraged by the UN Charter, or they can be international organizations, they can be organizations or platforms developed on thematic lines or geographical lines or other commonality of interests. So I think that and it is something which is required by every country. It is not just the small countries or mid-sized countries. I think even bigger countries, they also need this collaborative effort. The United Nations is a testament to that reality that you need in this interdependent and complex world. You need those kind of platforms where countries come together, they discuss, debate issues and come up with joint strategies, joint policies, joint approaches on different issues. And one of the reasons why it is a necessity is because there are issues which no one country can independently address on its own entirely. They are cross-cutting issues. They are cross-border issues. They are international issues. International, for instance, climate, environment. You cannot solve it at the level of one country. You have to have those collaborative relationships. You have to go out. You have to meet other countries at midway to come up with some solution to those problems which are cross-cutting. And more the issues are cross-cutting. So it is every country's, I think, opportunity and as well as a dilemma in a certain sense to balance out those kind of competing interests and to devise approaches which would serve their interests in the best possible manner. The international system, I would say, provides countries like Pakistan and Nepal that opportunity to come together, join their hands, join their voices, and to identify their common interests and to lobby for those interests. So, and a number of countries, a number of issues, countries have managed to register their voice to protect their interests. They have managed to do that, and I think it provides that opportunity. Pakistan and Nepal, for instance, have been cooperating with each other at the international fora because we have a commonality of views on a number of issues, and I think we should continue to do that. Like, for instance, I would say on this IC mode, for instance, this the countries in the Himalayan belt. I mean, they have unique challenges. They have unique kind of problems, and they can be solved only when they come together and they address those challenges. So I think there are a number of areas where we have been cooperating, and we should cooperate, and we should seek the support of other like-minded countries. That is the best possible way of protecting and promoting our interests in this globalized and highly complex interdependent world.
The United States has withdrawn its force from Afghanistan, and in this response the stability of Afghanistan is in problem from a few days because the Taliban has came into the powers. And Pakistan is always accused for supporting Taliban, and in this changing context, what is the role of Pakistan for the stability, for peace and stability in Afghanistan and the entire South Asia?
Afghanistan is a very important issue. We have a long border, more than 2,400 kilometers border with Afghanistan. It is mostly through very difficult terrain. And instability in Afghanistan impacts the one country which is impacted the most by instability in Afghanistan after Afghanistan is Pakistan. Even now we have more than 3 million Afghan refugees, about 1.6 registered, and there are others who are unregistered. And there is roughly about 25,000 people cross the border every day. So it is, and then there are old historical, cultural, religious relations with Afghanistan. So we have been in the thick and thin of all this, and we have suffered as a result of what has happened in Afghanistan. The invasion foreign invasion in 1979, and then the instability in the early 90s, and the international communities rolling back support at that time, all those things. Pakistan has been there. I mean, even when the world was no longer interested, we had to suffer. We do not have the luxury of shutting off. We don't have that luxury. Afghanistan is a neighbor, an important neighbor, and there are people who suffer as a result of instability, and who find Pakistan as a home and as a refuge. They come to Pakistan. So we have those linkages and those challenges as a result of situation in Afghanistan. We are happy that Afghans, the Taliban and the Americans reached an agreement, and that opens up a possibility for peace and reconciliation in Afghanistan. Our policy has always been that we want and we support a united, stable, peaceful Afghanistan, at peace with itself. And once Afghanistan is peaceful, united through a political settlement which is Afghan-led and Afghan-owned peace process, that is when you can get a sustainable peace. And I think the international community has a crucial role to play. They have to extend support to that effort. The country has been ravaged through war over the last 4.5 decades. It has to get that support from the international community so that it can not only sustain the pressure of governance and of reconstruction and development, but also in the last 20 years, the gains made last 20 years in terms of different institutions and developmental activity, that has to be also preserved. So we support all those efforts for peace and stability in Afghanistan. And if that kind of peace settlement be ensured in Afghanistan, it would also pave the way for the millions of Afghan refugees, about 3 million of whom are in Pakistan, they are elsewhere in the world. That peace would allow them to return to Afghanistan in dignity, in honor, and they would be able to contribute to Afghanistan's development, its reconstruction. They need that human capital. They need more than the direct financial input. They need their own people, their own community members who could not live in Afghanistan due to instability, to return and to build Afghanistan once again. And we hope that it would be possible for the Afghans themselves to seize this historic opportunity, to reduce violence, to come to a political settlement, because we believe there is no military solution. It cannot be resolved through military power. It has to be a political settlement. It has to be the different Afghan groups have to come together, and they have to agree on a peaceful, stable Afghanistan. And once they do that, there are immense opportunities in terms of connectivity, in terms of economic development. We hope that the international community would remain supportive. Pakistan, for at its end, it would remain supportive. It has been supportive, and it would continue to be supportive to those efforts. And we hope that once stability and peace returns to Afghanistan, that there would be possibilities for turning this region into a kind of economic hub. So our focus is on geoeconomics, and that it fits well with our larger vision of peace and prosperity in the region, that Afghanistan becomes stable and peaceful, so that our linkages with Central Asia, for instance, through Afghanistan, which would be mutually beneficial for every participating country, could be realized. So we hope that there would be progress in that direction, and we encourage the Afghan brothers to seize this historic opportunity and to allow peace and to build peace in their own country.
At the end of this interview, do you want to give some message to Nepalese people?
I think the Nepalese people currently are facing this challenge of COVID pandemic. We are very mindful of the devastating impact of this virus. At our end, we simply want to say to our Nepalese brothers and sisters that we are with you. Pakistan is a friend, and we would continue to be supportive of Nepal in whatever way we can. We wish you success in your current endeavors to manage this pandemic, and we hope that in the years to come, once we have overcome this challenge, that we can further strengthen our people-to-people contacts, and there could be a greater flow of people from Nepal to Pakistan and from Pakistan to Nepal.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your valuable opinion on Nepal-Pak relations and some of the tough international and regional issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.